Uzodinma, the candidate of the All Progressive Congress, was on Sunday declared the winner of the Saturday governorship poll in Imo State by the Independent National Electoral Commission. The electoral body affirmed Uzodinma's re-election, having won in all the 27 local government areas of the state. The governor clinched his second term in office after scoring a total of 540,008 votes, the commission stated. In Kogi, the candidate of the All Progressive Congress, Usman Ododo, was also declared the winner of the election with about 446,237 votes. Announcing the result late Sunday night, the state returning officer, Professor Johnson Urama, said Ododo was closely followed by the candidate of the Social Democratic Party, Muri Adjaka, who scored about 259,052 votes, while Dino Melaye of the People's Democratic Party gathered 46,362 votes to come third. In Bayelsa State, INEC said the result from Brass and Southern Niger local government areas of Bayelsa State will be announced today, Monday. The head of Department Voters Education of the Publicity of INEC Office, Yanegua, Mr. Wilfred Ifoga, announced to the state party agents, election observers, and journalists on Sunday that the collation of the result will continue today. If the result finally comes in today and the winner is declared also, it will finally end the first off-cycle polls conducted by the Independent National Electoral Commission after the 2023 general election. A total of 46,084 regular and ad hoc staff were deployed in the 3 states, and at least 126 national and international observers deployed for the elections, while 11,000 observers were also accredited. While 80 media organizations, including ours, Quest, applied to deploy 1,203 personnel, including journalists and technical support staffs. But the big question and the big story for today, was the election free, fair, and credible? If it was, why are candidates calling for the cancellation of that of Imo and Kogi? And what will be the likely outcome if the election in Bayelsa will definitely not go the way that many feel? Well, these and many concerns about the off-season election is what is taking center stage on the big story for today, and that is off-cycle governorship election reaction trailing its outcome. And that's what we're having as a major discourse today on the big story. We're talking about the off-cycle governorship elections in Imo, Kogi, and most certainly our neighbor Bayelsa State, and the reactions that seems to be trailing the outcome. But anyway, to really help us look at this, we'll have 2 guests. We'll quickly definitely join later our guest in Bayelsa State. He'll be giving us a full update of what's happening there. And we're talking about Baraf of Bedford, is an observer of that very election. But in the studio with us is our very own, I'm talking of no other person but Comrade FM&TV, as he gives us an insight on his reactions as it concerns the election. Good morning and welcome to the show, sir. Yeah, good morning. I also welcome you too, because it's a hand-wash hands that makes both hands to be clean. But anyway, I doubt if it was the opposition is feeling it's a clean process that played out in Imo and also Kogi. Now, in all, 18 political parties contested in Kogi, while in Imo and Bayelsa we had 17 and 16 respectively. So they lined up 16, yes. 17, 18. Okay. Well, also, we do know that this is the first off-cycle election conducted after the general elections was held earlier. And we also do know that this off-cycle election was held in 10,470 polling units across about 649 electoral wards in about 56 local government areas. And good enough, we've had winners declared in 2 states, remaining that of Bayelsa, and undermining the Labour Party and also the People's Democratic Party, and funny enough, the Social Democratic Party have all come out to reject the results of those elections and call for cancellation, all bordered on irregularities and issue of outright falsification. But I want to ask you, in all fairness, I want your honest assessment of the process. are we going anywhere better than we had in the general election, or we are off it, and the conduct of this off-season election has many issues, fundamental issues that should be addressed?
Yes, definitely. Definitely. That's a very nice one. What we experience now was not different from what we had in the March general elections. Because it's the same gladiators that are still organizing these issues, the elections. And definitely, if more than one person contests for a position and one wins, the second one will feel slighted, will feel being cheated. Now, if you have 3 major contestants for this position, now that is it. Let's say about 4 now.
Okay.
You have the APC, the PDP, the Labour Party,
and the Social Democratic Party.
Even if you cannot bring in AA in Kogi, one person should have won that election, and that was what happened. One person won that election. The other one felt that they were cheated. Had it been that it was the candidate of AA that won that election, every other one too would
my question still remains. Now let's look at the process, because everybody was looking at what played out in the general elections.
Yes.
And they wanted to use this off-cycle election as a yardstick to see if there's any major shift from what we had during the general elections. Now, in your own honest assessment, do you feel there's a positive change in direction of how this went, or do you feel it's just where we were, especially during the general elections? No movement.
No movement at all. Because if you look at it, all of them voted in the same pattern of the general elections. The sitting
incumbent,
the incumbent retained power at the center, retained power at their various states. Now, why this one is a bit of a more credible election, I use the word a bit of a more credible election, we were able to see those that went against the electoral rules that were arrested. Like in Kogi State, for example, where they arrested three security trucks. Yes, that was the language they used. Who owns those trucks? And for what purpose were they? We were able to see where a council chairman was arrested with ballot boxes and the ballot papers together with a large sums of money in some other states. So we have not actually shifted, but we cannot blame INEC for that. Like we said in the paper review, there was a system in place, and there is still the system in place, and that system will continue to still be in place, where we are supposed to be monitoring these activities. But those that you ask to monitor the activities are those people that are now contravening that same law. It will be too difficult for you to monitor. Because in the day a watchman starts telling you his dreams, the person that is watching the body is telling you that, okay, I dreamed about you, then you know that something is wrong somewhere. What do you expect INEC to have done in that situation where the police...
Okay, so you are talking more of a great improvement that it concerns security, but I want us to look at the conduct of the election itself and look at the umpire, INEC. Before these elections, they gave us that understanding that the results will be loaded on the IREV.
IREV, yes, they did.
But many also had great reservation, especially what played out in Imo, that very unfortunate one. If our PD is there, if we seem to have pictures concerning that, and if we do have a video whereby a Labour Party secretary was given the beating of his life and driven out of the center. So let's look at the conduct, because he complained that the results that were coming in were different from that on the IREF. And the IREF has always been the major charge of
information to the people.
So would you say INEC did credibly well now than they did in the general election?
They never did credibly. I said this earlier, they didn't do better than what they did in
your own assessment.
In my own assessment. Because if we are to depend on IREF, and IREF did not even comfort, you are now using maybe manual to collect results. How is it different from the past one? Why don't you just come out transparently? Now, I know you will still come to that question later. What happened? This is 2023, in 2019.
Okay, yeah, because I feel we need to go there, because I don't want us to bungle it all together.
Yes.
I want us to break it down. As much as you've said you're not too comfortable, I want us now to break it down, and I want us to first start with the issue of Imo. Let's go to Imo State. Okay. Because we have the result being read out first.
27 out of 27.
Yes, they are before every other. Now, in Imo State, I want us to understand, Hope Uzodinma won in all 27 local government areas of the state, and he scored a total of 540,008 votes to beat his closest rival, who is Samuel Anyanwu of the People's Democratic Party, who got 71,503 votes, and Labour Party Atam Achunum, who gathered about 64,081 votes, as being announced by the Imo returning officer for the election. I'm talking about Professor Bayomi Fasina, who is also the Vice Chancellor of the University of Ekiti State. And a lot happened to the build-up of that election, and even during the election, and even after the election, especially with that drama I told you that played out during the coalition.
3 dramas now.
Well, it's more of an epic drama that played out during the coalition and final announcement, where we had the returning, the Secretary of the Labour Party being manhandled and taken away from there. But my question now is, I want us to look at it, and I want us to take our minds back to 2019 elections, where we had Ihildiora of the People's Democratic Party getting about 38.27% of the votes. Onyosu Uchi of the AA, who is also the in-law of the former governor, Oroche Sokorocha, who got 26.65% of the votes, and Ararume of Abga, who got about 16.05%, and funny enough, Opus Odima himself, who came fourth and got about 13.50% of the votes. And but funny enough, in this very election, he got 70% of the total vote, as against just 25% of both the Labour Party and the PDP. So my question is, what happened? Why the big margin? Why are we seeing this big margin now that we did not see in 2019, when the difference or the differentials were just less than 5-10 as it stands? So why 70%? What really happened?
That is the question on the lips of every Nigerian, not only the Imolites. Because if that 2019 election is a yardstick, this is a man that came forth, and at the end of the day, he leaped from the 4th position to the 1st position. Now, what are those fantastic things that he has done between this period that sold him overwhelming? Sold him to the general
70% or 75%
population of the Imolites. Unless, of course, he must have been a superhuman governor. I've been to Imo yes, at least once when he's on seat. I've not seen that job that actually sold him to the people that he won the whole 27 local government. Something must be wrong somewhere. I'm not saying that he cheated, but I'm also saying that something is not too correct somewhere. For you people, for you to have said, out of all the 27 local governments, you never came second, you never came third in anyone, you got all, which means he distributed dividends of democracy even around the whole local government, which can never be possible. But what can we do? Somebody can actually say there was a fraud, fine, but it will be too difficult to prove that case in an election, because you now have too many facts, so many facts to pierce together to drive your case home. But I think that very sure. Look at the build-up to that election. That was when Ajaero had that problem with. Because that brings me to this question, because Imo State has this political tension. Do you feel this result now will take Imo State away from the woods, or do you feel a lot of issues will now arise politically on account of you cannot rule that one out. Imo State has been a center of tension politically from the beginning. You remember the time of Samu Bakwe? You know that man. Samu Bakwe just looked at something and said, no, NPN is going to declare this result in their favor. Therefore, I'm going to announce the result before Fedeco before Fedeco will announce their own result, which he did. That was when they were now calling him the crying governor. So that thing has been snowballing up to this, even up to the time of Okorocha, from Okorocha to Ihedioha.
Yes.
Now we are in this situation. With what has happened, so many of these local governments that first cheated are going to take it as a disgruntled scenario, that they were removed from the place they were supposed to be. Actually, even at the presidency, no president has been able to win the whole constituency without anybody coming second. You lose some, you win some. But in a situation where you win all, 27 of them. When you win all, then there must be an eyebrow. If you place somebody on an inquiry, he probes the matter to the bottom. You cannot tell me that the every other candidates are less popular, that they will not even get one local government it is not.
But what if he comes to see, and his party comes to see, they did their homework well, they played the politics
Everybody that wins, or every victorious person will tell you they did their homework well. But you can also know quite well that every other person too did their own homework. It's not only you one that read. Now, let's go back to 2019.
Yes.
Why the person that came first in that election?
Yes,
that was not given. Does it mean they did not do their homework well? That the person that came forth now did his homework well, and they moved him above every other person to the first position?
So you're not comfortable with the wide margin?
I'm not comfortable at all.
Should have been what we experienced in 2019 when there were differentials of 5-10.
Exactly. If you have done it that way, then nobody will actually raise an eyebrow.
Okay, now
for you to now come out and say, the whole 27, you are so popular in the whole 27.
Okay, let's leave your eyebrow a bit raised, because I want you to also look at the issue of Kogi elections, where the call for a total cancellation seems to be loudest. And it's not just only coming from the Social Democratic Party, but also from the PDP. It's funny enough, Dino Melaye, who spoke at a press conference on Sunday yesterday in Lokoja at the state capital, alleging that the result sheets were manipulated before the commencement of the accreditation of voters on Saturday in Kogi State. It's also alleged that a core member who was part of the election was caught with about 1 million naira in his back and already prepared result sheet indicating the victory of, well, I won't call the party itself, but many knew Kogi would definitely be a flashpoint. We always knew it's going to be a flashpoint, especially as it concerns the election. But would you say that, or rather, what would you say would be the major talking point in Kogi? Because we do know that the opposition, especially the PDP and the SDP, are crying foul, and a lot happened during
the elections.
The elections in Kogi State. For you, what would be the talking points as we go towards or months ahead as it concerns this very election? Kogi State particularly.
Definitely. That copper that was arrested is going to be a talking point. Which party was he representing? How did he get those ballot papers that were printed? Where did he get that money of that amount?
The 1 million in
the 1 million naira. That money was for what purpose? Was it for his own kickback, or was it for the electorates? That is to bribe the electorates. They should have to establish that fact first. Who sent him is another issue. Before that elections, one of the governorship candidates was arrested and detained for having some arms with him.
Okay.
That's another issue.
Major talking point.
Another talking point. The third one, the sitting governor, how did he come into office? We all knew how he came into the office then.
With the death of Audu.
Exactly. And he has vowed that the Kogi remains in the hands of APC. And throughout his tenure, I don't think he spent up to 5 days in a month in Kogi. He was all along seated in Abuja. That's another talking point. What was he doing in Abuja? While seated in Abuja, while his governing seat is domiciled in Lokoja. The fifth one, did Dino Melaye vote?
Because we had the ruling party defeated him in his own local government.
And there was another news that came that he didn't vote. Instead of me voting, he was addressing the press.
So why did he do that?
That is another problem. Now, if you did not vote, can you go to court that you were cheated when you did not participate in the election?
So it's going to be another major talking point.
It's another major talking point. He has no local standing to go and fight that case because already he has voted against himself. If you are contesting an election and you did not vote, because if you voted and you are a contestant, then you have voted for yourself.
Okay.
But the very moment you did not vote, which means you voted against yourself, can you go to court and argue that matter? Then another area that people have been shying away from is that Dino Melaye went to court after committing a traffic offense, running into somebody in a traffic offense, only for him to get to court and discover that the person he hit at that traffic junction is the judge. What do? You have forgotten all Dino Melaye did to this present administration from onset. That is the problem of APC from onset. And these are the people that are in charge of this election. And how do you think that he is able, or he will be able to win that election?
So we're going to have a lot of controversies in the months ahead as it concerns the election.
Exactly.
But I'll play with you to hold on. We need to go on a break now. But when we come back, we'll continue our discussion. But now critically look at the issue that seems to be playing out in Bayelsa and what will be the final outcome. Let's go on a break.